Mindanao Development Authority Chairman, Secretary Abdul Khair Alonso, and MINDA Executive Director Yusek Janet Lopos, who are represented by Director Rizal Tan, representatives from the government, academia, and the private sector. A pleasant morning to you all. For 4 years now, we have been working with MINDA to create a venue where experts and stakeholders can talk about pressing issues and topics in the country and how they affect or bring opportunities for Mindanaoans. The Mindanao Policy Research Forum is part of the celebration of the Development Policy Research Month, which is intended to cultivate a strong culture of research and use of data and evidence among the country's national and local decision makers in policy making and program planning. Given the emergence of new technologies that greatly alter the way we live, our theme this year is harnessing the fourth industrial revolution in Mindanao, creating our future today. During our recently held kick-off press conference on the 16th EPRM in Metro Manila, Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy President Amina Rasul Bernardo asked a striking question on where Mindanao is in the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, also known as FIRE or Industry 4.0. This begs us to also ask the question, is Mindanao ready to harness the benefits of FIRE? More importantly, is the region ready to face the risks and issues it poses? Mindanao, as we all know, is a highly agricultural region where more than 1/3 of the country's agricultural needs are being produced. Reports also say that indeed, Mindanao's potential to grow can come from agriculture if it is efficiently utilized. So the question is, are the 3.7 million workers in agriculture in Mindanao ready for Industry 4.0? And not just the 3.7 million workers in agriculture, actually have a total of about 9.3 million employed in Mindanao. So are the workers ready for Industry 4.0? So given this scenario, what can the agriculture sector do to keep up with FIRE when at present it is already lagging behind in terms of technology utilization? In fact, one of our panelists during that press conference said that Mindanao, unfortunately, is still trapped in the second industrial revolution, which is characterized by mechanization or the use of electrical machines and equipment. This is just one among the many issues that our speakers for today will aim to answer. Today's forum will have sessions on situating Mindanao in today's age of disruptive technologies, as well as identifying innovations and FIRE-related technologies that can benefit key sectors in the country, such as agriculture. We are very pleased to partner with the STP and MINDA today to showcase some innovations that can benefit the agriculture sector, not just in Mindanao, but throughout the country. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Cagayan de Oro City for the warm welcome, as well as USTP and Mindanao for making this event possible. I look forward to a fruitful discussion with all of you. Daghang salamat sa ninyo mga tanan.
Daghang salamat, Dr. Reyes. The City Mayor of Cagayan de Oro is with us to deliver his keynote address. Folks, please welcome Honorable Oscar S. Moreno.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Mayong buntag ka ninyo and magandang umaga po. Of course, I'd like to greet Dr. Quirino and Dr. Reyes and sure maraming mga doktor dito, scientists and intellectuals. To all of you, good morning. This is a very fortunate and important forum. And ako po yung natuwa because talking about the future today. And course, as the mayor of Cagayan de Oro City, I cannot thank you enough for having this here in the city. And I was talking to President Reyes, because I was a member of Congress from 1998 to 2004, and I had the privilege to have led the Committee on Economic Affairs. And the 12th Congress, even in the 11th, there was a basket of economic reform measures that was pushed, and meant to spur the economy, and legislations like anti-money laundering, very controversial. Director Alapat, please, directors DOST. Anti-money laundering was a very, very important piece of legislation. Actually, we were far behind. The treaty was entered into way back in the 80s. Countries agreed that they will pass legislation on anti-money laundering to fight terrorism. And then the FATF had to issue their warning sometime in 1999 because some 11, 15 countries had still failed to enact legislation to combat money laundering. Of course, philosophy is you combat money laundering because money laundering is one of the, laundering rather is one of the sources of funds for to finance terrorism. And anyway, that was a long story, but fortunately we passed. But even if we had been able to pass, we had to do it twice because the FATF rejected the first version. And it's very difficult to pass legislations like that. Of course, we also introduced reforms, amendment, the General Banking Act, the Corporate Recovery Act was something that I had the privilege to have worked for 3 years. And before we had this insolvency law, which was way back during the early days of the American era, and that has never been amended because it's a very difficult law. And during the time of Marcos in the 70s and early 80s, he had moved jurisdiction of certain recovery or rehabilitation activities in respect to companies and partners. So the intention of the law was to consolidate our insolvency and other related laws to provide for a common ground so that the law would cover as much areas as possible in regard to corporate rehabilitation. The idea really is to give corporations, business entities, the chance to rehabilitate and not to be, especially during unusual times. No? And of course, many other measures. I have had the privilege of sponsoring, including the SPAM, Special Purpose Asset Vehicle, which was quite successful, including the barangay micro business enterprises and so on. And I mentioned this because in all of these legislations that I handled, PIDS was always by my side. And buhay na po salamat sa PIDS. That time si Mario Lamberte, and I have been privileged to have benefited from the advice and opinions of VIPS. And to think na VIPS with Linda and USDP and other experts are gathered here to talk about the future of Mindanao certainly gives us brighter hope for tomorrow. Of course, as I reflected on my way here in regard to this forum, I know that it is incumbent upon government to deliver the basic services, and without these basic services, growth and prosperity would not be in sight. And I think that would be one of the key requirements for Mindanao. Unfortunately, the problems, the conflicts that had affected Mindanao over many decades had affected us quite seriously. You know, in the Marawi siege last year, as the chairman of the Regional Peace and Order Council, within days after the siege, I convened the executive committee, and so not just the military, the police, including the interfaith. Archbishop Ledesma is a member of our executive committee, business community, and so on. And we came up with a strategy that can be summarized in 3 words. And first word is security, that we must be secure and people must also feel secure. Second is solidarity. And of course, we hope that the lesson of Marawi will be very instructive to us, especially here in Mindanao, that we must learn to live in peace and harmony. That the culture, because Mindanao had lived polarized and divided for many decades. No? There was a time, I was born here, I grew up here, and I intend to die here. Although 20 years I spent in Manila in the private sector, and I studied in Manila. No? But even when I worked in Manila, always I would find every opportunity to come home and spend some time in the beach and enjoy the life that I used to live here in Mindanao. No? And we lived divided and polarized. There was a time in the 70s and 80s, of course, one of the things that when martial law was imposed in 72, one of the things that the government did was to really ensure that Mindanao was a bloc. And you know, that was a time when almost every family in Mindanao had a father or a brother or a son in Bolo or Tawi-Tawi or Basilan fighting the war. Almost every family had a member fighting the war. And could just imagine how painful it was for these families to receive their sons or their fathers or their brothers already inside home, going home inside home. I had a that was very painful, and we were divided, we were polarized. Bias was very obvious, and that's why with the siege of Marawi, I thought that perhaps we should focus on solidarity and learn. If we remain divided, if we remain polarized, we can never succeed. We can never succeed, and we cannot be indifferent with the things that happen in other parts of Mindanao, no matter how far they may be. Of course, before, when there were incidents in Basilan, incidents in Tawi-Tawi, we would say, ang layo niyan. We are not affected, no? But what happened in Marawi was very close to us. And I thought that there was a lesson from that. I thought that it was God's will that it happened in order to teach us a lesson that we must we must remember, we must live in peace and harmony. Anything that happens anywhere else in Mindanao affects, good or bad, all the other parts of Mindanao. You travel advisories, for instance. No matter how successful you may be, if these incidents still happen, of course the other countries would be able, would certainly, quite certainly come up with advisories that are negative for the whole of Mindanao. And all of us are affected. In fact, sometimes they would, you know, 1 month in office in 2013, because before becoming mayor, I was governor of Isang Misunita. I was just 1 month in office in Cagayan de Oro when I was met with a bombing on July 26. And my God, it was very devastating. And I even started to question God why it happened, no? Pero, you know, sometimes those tragedies have their lessons. Or I would always put it that way, everything has a lesson. No? Because, you know, from that tragedy, we saw Cagayan de Oro emerging. We saw Cagayan de Oro rising up from the pains of that tragic bombing. You know, within days after the incident, people started to reflect. And there were fears, of course. There were almost everybody was fearful. And that was 1 month before the fiesta of August 28th, our city fiesta. And there was even a suggestion that we should tone down or even cancel the fiesta celebration. And I said, no, we cannot interfere with the fiesta celebration because the fiesta celebration is a religious activity and religious activities must be allowed to proceed as they wish. And you know, what happened was every day there was a series of processions, religious processions, attended by all the religious sectors here in Cagayan de Oro. The culmination event was when all of these religious groups convened in a procession, convened in the site where the bombing took place, and each major religion, including an imam, lighted a candle to signify solidarity. You know, that was one moment where I felt like I was getting stronger inside. And that's when I realized that inner strength is more important than outer strength. And I saw Cagayan de Oro emerging. From that I saw Cagayan de Oro emerging. The resiliency of the city had been demonstrated quite well. And I would even say the resiliency has now gathered a new meaning. And this was way back in 2013. Because before, resiliency was understood, what was defined as by comparing to a bamboo. Wherever you are blown, you go where the wind blows. But as the wind disappears, you go back to where you were. That was how we understood resiliency. But what happened in 2013, a new meaning of resiliency came about, and that was to emerge stronger from the tragedy, build back better, build back stronger. Kaya po, I saw the people getting stronger and embracing peace as the instrument of progress. You know, we had when the fiesta, on the day of the fiesta, August 28th, you know, I have never seen the cathedral so full. It was impossible for anyone to move inside the cathedral. But people went inside the cathedral to celebrate the fiesta together. And everybody followed the advisory na walang mag-sunglass, walang mag-sombrero, walang magpakpak, and to look at to everyone beside you and make sure that everyone was okay, you know. And you know, we saw Cagayan de Oro emerging, and kaya ngayon resiliency has gathered a new meaning. And natutuwa ako, and even now the National Resiliency Council examples of resiliency always would include Cagayan. How Cagayan had risen from Sindong, the first major flooding in Mindanao. Before that, before Sindong, Mindanao was believed to be typhoon-free. But Sindong had proven that wrong. And then after that came Pablo, and then Yolanda. But Cagayan de Oro has risen. You know, I'm saying all of this because we have seen that we can rise up from all these difficult situations. I have always believed in the collective wisdom of the people. The people can rise up to all kinds of challenges. Ang importante lang is we put the policies in place, and government fulfills its duty of providing the basic services like education, like health, like infrastructure. And today this is a good opportunity to talk about how can we rise up higher. How can we go to the next level? And indeed, we're very fortunate that the forum is held here in Cagayan de Oro. You know, in closing, I was then governor when the country representative of JICA visited Cagayan de Oro. And we had breakfast together. And he asked me, Governor, if I were to ask you, which would you develop first? Northern Mindanao or Southern Mindanao? Of course, I was shocked with that question because, of course, my logical answer would have been Northern Mindanao. After all, I am from Northern Mindanao. No, but I thought that question was deeper than it seemed. You know? So I reflected on it, and then I responded. I told him I will still develop both. I will not develop one and then forget the other. No, I will still develop both. And he said, why? And then, of course, my reply was very simple. I told him, it's like a seesaw. No, you play the seesaw and one dominates the other. It's only the one who dominates who enjoys the game. The other one has no choice. He will be up there if the dominant player wants him to go up, and he will be down there if the dominant player. No, there is no balance. And if there is no balance, there is no equality of growth, then it is not real growth. It can only be an artificial growth. So I would still develop both. And the other reason I told him was, if I develop both, there will be better and improved chances for the other regions to grow, like Caraga. Because Caraga is between the north and the south, like Zamboanga Peninsula. Zamboanga Peninsula would benefit from the growth of northern Mindanao. And so will Sorsogon benefit from the growth of southern Mindanao. And so will the Cotabato area. You know, Mindanao, during the Spanish era, only had about 4 provinces. Davao was one big province. Now there are about 6. Cotabato was one big province. Now there are about 7. Zamboanga was one big province. There are 3 now. And Misamis was one big province. There are now 5. Plus Lanao del Sur. The 5 that comprise the northern Mindanao region plus Lanao del Sur. So there are now 6 provinces that used to be part of the Misamis province. And then 1930, the then much smaller province of Misamis was further divided between Oriental and Occidental. But you will note that Oriental and Occidental are not adjoining each other. In between them is the province of Lanao. Lanao used to be one undivided province, and then later on divided into Del Sur and Del Norte. Del Sur voted to be part of ALMM, that's why they're no longer part of Region 10. But that did not remove Lanao del Sur from the map. They're still within 100 kilometers from Cagayan de Oro and less than 100 kilometers from our boundaries. Now, Lanao del Norte, by the way, voted to stay with Northern Mindanao. Now, this is the past. And I would always remind them that we have the same, we have the same past, we have the same history, and certainly we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, and we will have the same future. Kaya people from Lanao del Sur, they come to Cagayan de Oro to shop. On Sundays, our SMs are full with our brothers and sisters from Lanao del Sur and Lanao del Norte. And mind you, they buy big. And then houses here and so on. No? Anyway, I wanted to emphasize this because during the early days of the province of Misamis, the capital was the town of Misamis. The town of Misamis. And in fact, the town of Misamis became the first city in this part of the country. When it became a city, it was renamed Osani City, in honor of Mindanao's first senator, Senator Osamis. Misamis, Osami City was the capital of the province, the old province of Misamis. But it was the choice then because Osamis is protected by Pangil Bay. Osami City has the best military position defensively because Pangil Bay provides it natural protection. When the Americans came, they wanted to introduce education. And education has to have accessibility and proximity. And they chose Cagayan de Misamis in 1909. Cagayan and Misamis High School, the first public high school in the upper half of Mindanao at least, was established in 1909. And that, I think, is the most important defining moment, not just of Cagayan, but the whole of Misamis. Because it made Cagayan as the convergence area. People from the east would come here to study, to study. People from the west, from Zamboanga, would come here. Even if we know, history tells us, that Zamboanga used to be the capital of the old Mindanao, because that was where the Spanish were based. But you know, there's when Misamis High School was established in 1909, no less than the Governor General was here, Governor General Cameron Forbes. Of course, he was the equivalent to our president during that era. And what is very touching is, in that campus, that school still exists. Although the name of the school now is Misamis Oriental General Comprehensive High School. It is located in the city, but it still is a part of the division of Misamis Oriental. And I agree with that it should stay with the division of Misamis Oriental, and we should not distort history. But anyway, there's a marker there in the ancestral home of the Velices. At that time, the governor was Apolinar Velez, in whose honor the main street was named. And there's a placard there that reads, if I may paraphrase, before, education was available only to the affluent. But now, with this school, education can now be attained by people, young boys and girls, regardless of their standing in society and so on and so forth. That defined Cagayan de Oro. And now Cagayan de Oro is the education center. And thanks to USTP for being one of the lead academic institutions here. And of course, thanks also to USTP for helping the city in many ways. Our livable cities design challenge was eventually adjudged as the winning entry, and of course USTP had helped us. USTP had also helped us in doing our building permit licensing, the first in the country. And although we need still to harness it and to improve it, but we've gone a long way already. And anyway, we have a very good partnership here in the city, not just with the academy, but also with the interfaith, also with the youth, also with the business sector, and generally with the community. And I would say that we have the right formula for gearing towards the next level. We are in a good position, but we cannot still achieve that if peace and harmony will not be achieved. So it is incumbent really for all of us to always be part, always remember that we are all contributors in making peace and harmony a realizable agenda. We must help arriving a peaceful and harmonious relationship is a community undertaking. It is not done by the leaders alone. Everybody must participate in it. And we hope that by achieving peace and harmony, growth and prosperity will not be far behind. I hope that during our lifetime, Mindanao will be known no longer as the land of promise. When I was young, we used to memorize Mindanao is the land of promise. Puro promise lang. I hope that we can still live to the day that Mindanao becomes a land of fulfillment, a land of success, and a land of growth and prosperity. Again, maraming salamat sa inyo po for taking part of this forum. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Honorable Oscar S. Moreno, the Mayor of Cagayan de Oro City. I'm sure everybody saw the knowledge product displays at the ground floor of this engineering complex. So at this juncture, we shall witness the ribbon cutting ceremony for the opening of exhibits. May I request once again Honorable Mayor Oscar S. Moreno to come in front. Honorable Moreno, please, to do the favor. Dr. Rosalento A. Quirino, President of USTP. Dr. Celia M. Reyes, President of PIDS. Director Rizal D. Tan, PPPBO Director of MINDA. And of course, Dr. Ramon A. Rizal, the President of DOST and RCP. Meantime, let's watch the ABP. So, gentlemen, please mind the countdown, which will be flashed on the big screen for the ribbon cutting. So let's watch the ABP, please. ribbon cutting, guided by the countdown. Operator, please, the count of 5. 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you so much. That primes the opening of exhibits. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for the favor. Before we continue, let me walk you through the highlights of the program. These are the 3 sessions.